How different can they be? I mean, we watch the same television, we read the same books, we wear similar clothes and so on. Frequently we hear from our clients in corporations across Europe, come on, they can't be that different. At the end of the day, they suppose we're all Europeans. This Educast aims to underline some of the differences you may experience in terms of what research tells us are frequently perceivable, observable behaviours you may experience when you deal with British counterparts. Of course, this is a broad brush look, a first insight into British culture. Not everybody is like this. You may agree with some of the things that are said, you may see it differently from your own experiences. This aims to give you an insight into some of the things you may experience, to give you some food for thought how you may want to deal with those differences you experience in future. The approach we're taking in this Educast is to base it around a story with 4 parts. In each part of the story, a certain aspect of British culture is described. There's an opportunity for you to think and to reflect upon the culture and to think for yourself how this is different to your culture and how you might want to handle it if this happens to you. This is the story of a German employee from an insurance company who goes to the UK to work in the office there for a while. In the first part of the story, our employee arrives and is pleased to experience that his colleagues there are very friendly, very open, very sociable towards him, using first names very soon from the start, even offering to take him sightseeing, to show him the city in London where he is, etc. This offer of showing him around, sightseeing, doesn't really materialize, it doesn't really happen. However, he just puts this down to people being very busy. In part 2 of the story, our employee goes to work every day in the London office wearing a suit and a roll-necked pullover. He observes that his colleagues, even the younger ones, are wearing shirts and ties for work. And people make comments like, oh, are you not feeling well today? Or are you going to a party this evening? Or even, is your iron broken? He laughs at these comments and finds them slightly surprising and notices they don't really stop until towards the end of the first week he wears a shirt and tie himself. In part 3 of the story, our German employee leaves his first department meeting feeling a little bit confused because he doesn't really understand exactly what's been agreed upon in the meeting and what exactly should be happening next, what to-dos need to be put into practice. In part 4 of the story, our German employee decides in the next department meeting he's going to make a real effort. He contributes, he raises objections, he asks critical questions and points out helpfully how things are different between the way they're done in Germany and in England. Even later in the meeting he decides it might make sense to point out carefully just to one of his colleagues how, from his point of view, his colleague is wrong. It's at this point when the head of department interrupts carefully with the words, "Thank you, but we're not in Germany now." In part 1 of the story, Herr M was welcomed by some nice, friendly British colleagues who even offered to take him and show him the city, do some sightseeing, etc. An offer that never really transpired, that never got past the suggestion point. And Herr M assumed, well, they must be just very busy. It's quite possible in cultural terms that there was a different reason, a phenomenon in cultural research for British culture that is called arm's length interpersonal interaction, which means, in simple terms, it's important to be seen to be friendly when you meet and engage with new people. However, this being friendly does not imply closeness as it might in some other cultures. It also means that, for example, small talk also includes distance, which means we don't want to hear too much detail. When people ask you, how are you? They expect the standard reply, I'm fine, how are you? Or something similar. You need to know someone really well and to have that real closeness before you tell them how you really are, regardless of your physical or mental state. In the business context, what that means is the business often has an air of formality in meetings, an air of friendly distance or detachment. And similarly, it's more often a question of being fair than of being close in your business interactions. In the second part of the story, Herr M goes to the office wearing a suit with a roll-neck pullover and has to listen to comments from his colleagues who are wearing shirts and ties like, is your iron broken? Are you going to a party today, or are you ill? This is an example of a frequently experienceable behaviour in British culture, indirect communication. Criticism, feedback, well, is often formulated indirectly. Orders, suggestions of what you should or must do may often sound much more like requests or questions. And especially disagreement is worded carefully, indirectly, or even packaged in irony. You will hear disagreements with a prefix like, for example, I'm not quite sure but, or I could be wrong but, which is a frequent indicator of someone saying, I know I am right but. Or you may experience someone saying no to you, packaging it in a phrase like, I don't quite feel comfortable with that, or I'm not sure if that's totally appropriate. Or the classic way of telling you that someone disagrees with you is the interesting. In the third part of the story, Herr M left the first department meeting a little bit confused, dissatisfied, because he didn't feel that the deliverables, the action items, the to-dos were clear enough. The explanation in British cultural terms is a term called pragmatism, which basically states that yes, the British are inclined to follow procedures and rules, however there is a high level in the culture of uncertainty tolerance. This means less need for detailed, in-depth planning. This means a preference for common sense, doing what makes sense in a given situation rather than following a defined plan or a model or an ideology. You will hear phrases in British culture very often like, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. A flexible reaction to situations if, as and when they arise. In the fourth part of the story, Herr M made a real effort to engage, to get involved, to contribute to the next department meeting. Asking questions in detail, being critical, pointing out that somebody was wrong, and so on. This led at one stage to his boss intervening with the words, thank you, but hey, we're not in Germany. This can best be understood by a phenomenon from British culture called self-discipline, Reserve and restraint are important in business and private interactions. More of a focus on avoiding confrontation, a focus on modesty and being reasonable, regardless of who is right and who is wrong. Much less likelihood of strong statements or powerful opinions, and instead a preference for understatement or reserved communication of ideas. If you've enjoyed this Educast, please take a look at our website www.international-hr.de. If you like any of the topics you see there for training, for workshops, for consulting on intercultural, international issues, please drop us a line. Thank you.